going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
I almost fived twice. There's not 2 5s, guys.
There's not.
If you were counting down, there's 1 5.
The audience is going to have no context.
They have no idea, but that's why I did it. So this week, I get a phone call from Jason, and he's like, "Hey, we need to talk about something." And I'm like, "Oh no, are we breaking up?" And he's like, "Previews. We need to talk about previews." And I was like, "That's a great idea."
It's just a lot. I mean, when they, every now and again you get a preview book that just has a lot of new stuff in it. And right. August was definitely one of those. August stuff going on sale in October has a lot of new things and, number twos of some other things that are still fairly new.
Heck yeah.
But Marvel's cover story is a new Jonathan Hickman book. It's called Gods. And there's a period between or after each letter, and I have no idea what that means. But
good odds, dogs,
I don't
soldiers.
I don't know, but they got some preview pages in the beginning of the catalog that show off Valerio Schiti's art, which is just fantastic and going to be great. But this book is going to kind of be magic versus the natural order of things. Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange is one of the main characters of the story. It lists it's Jonathan Hickman reinvents the cosmology of the Marvel Universe. And so when you need something new,
it's kind of
crazy,
Hickman's thing, yeah.
Give it to Hickman.
He's like, you want things to be a little bit different? I got you.
But it seems interesting. It's it asks what happens when the powers that be meet the natural order of things. So it's magic versus the laws of reality, I guess.
That's what it sounds like.
It sounds that way, right?
That's what it sounds like.
But anytime Jonathan Hickman puts his name on something, anything, whether it's a Marvel book, a DC book, or any kind of other independent book, Image, any of that stuff,
it gets freaking awesome.
You should pay attention. Yeah, that guy seems to have his finger on the pulse, man. I don't know how everything he does just kind of turns to gold. Got that Midas touch.
He kind of is that golden comic book writer.
Yeah, they always kind of bring him on when they want to reinvigorate parts of their line, right? Yeah. So he did Fantastic Four, which kind of launched that into a new echelon. He did Avengers when they did the Secret Wars, Time Runs Out, all of that, when the Earths were colliding. A lot of that stuff is actually ending up in movies. I mean, Jonathan Hickman is credited with creating the Black Order, Thanos' children, which we all know were in
Black
Infinity
Vortex,
War
right?
and Infinity War and Endgame.
Okay, yeah, that the series was it Black Vortex was the series that they were in?
No, it was Avengers. It was Infinity.
Okay, it was Infinity.
Was the mini-series where they first debuted.
What the hell was Black Vortex?
Black Vortex is a book that had Corvus Glaive in it.
Okay,
it came later.
That's what I was thinking of, the Corvus Glaive story there. Okay, that's what I was getting confused
Corvus
with.
Glaive first appeared in the Avengers Free Comic Book Day issue, which drove the price of that book way high. As soon as they were talking about putting him in a movie, man, right. People lost their minds trying to get a hold of that book. I actually sold a couple of copies right around that time too, because I had like 4 or 5 of them.
Like, might as well.
I just always grab a few copies of Free Comic Book Day things, especially when I was an employee.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Now they're like, do it.
But Alyssa Wong and John Basaluda are also launching a new Captain Marvel book. Captain Marvel's been an interesting character because while there are runs that are popular, while there are runs that kind of take advantage of the character, it kind of seems like they don't know what to do with her a lot of the times because of how powerful she is.
Yep.
I think it's the Superman problem, right? Is how do you challenge someone who's basically a god?
Yeah, how do we make it interesting?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that one. I always like Captain Marvel, and it will coincide with the new Captain Marvel movie coming out in November. Still coming out in November. Yeah, I don't know. The writer's strike, and we talked about that previously.
It's kind of thrown things all
shuffling all the schedules
all
around.
over the place.
Yeah, so I don't really know if that movie's still intending to come out or if they'll release it earlier or later or whatever, but it's supposed to come out this year. So new book, new movie, Kind of seems a good time.
It's freaking exciting.
They're also highlighting another character. One of the things that I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, because one of the things that is bothersome from a retailer standpoint is when Previews doesn't want to give you any information about a thing that you have to order. I just had to order number 3 of a book without any knowledge of what number 1 and 2 were. They haven't come out yet. Number 1 actually comes out next week. But so you get things like this where it just says classified. And the description just says, stay tuned for more information, including the actual title, in July. That didn't happen. It wasn't until August that we actually understood what this book was, and I just hate it. I hate that. It's bad enough having to order number 2 of a book before number 1 has even hit the shelf, right? Because you have no idea if it's going to be popular, if somebody's going to enjoy it, if it's going to be, a dud, whatever it is. So already you're in a bad position having to order the second issue of a book before you even know if the first one's popular. But when they do things like this,
you're just like,
oh my God, what do you expect me to do?
What is happening right now?
You expect me to order books with no knowledge? I'm supposed to be your partner, Marvel, your retail partner, because that's what I do. I am a comic book retailer. In my everyday life.
Right.
But we do know that to coincide with, as I was just talking about the Captain Marvel book kind of coming out right around the time the Captain Marvel movie is coming out, we do know that Miss Marvel is going to be in that movie. It's going to be her big screen debut after her TV show on Disney Plus, which is great. If you haven't watched it, one of the things I talked about at the time, I think the reason it resonated with me is because it was the first time a character that had been created in our generation took the center stage. Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America. They're all very old. They're great. There's nothing wrong with those characters, but we were not alive when those characters were conceived of and created and started printing comics. Miss Marvel was the first time a character, like I have Miss Marvel's first appearance in my collection. You know what I mean? So that was kind of cool.
I mean, we kind of had Deadpool. Deadpool was 92, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I was talking about the MCU specifically, though.
Okay, gotcha. My bad. Oopsie.
Deadpool, yeah, I mean, that's true. I do have the first. It was 94, I think.
Was it 94?
New Mutants, 98. So, yeah, I guess. I was thinking in the MCU echelon. Sure. But, yeah, it was just one of those things where we were there when this character began.
Right. Working in a comic shop, as a matter of fact, yeah.
Yeah. I was actually working in a comic shop when Miss Marvel first debuted.
I was as well when she first popped up. Yeah, that was freaking... It was different. It was wild. I remember getting Tara Miss Marvel 1 because she was a Captain Marvel fan.
Well, that's actually not her first appearance.
No, I know that's not her first appearance.
Captain Marvel... I don't remember the number.
Yes,
it's technically her first appearance.
I know it's not her first appearance, but she was like, "Oh, this is a good jumping on point for the series because it's a number 1." Absolutely, jump on a number 1.
Yeah, character debuted in another character's comic, became popular, spun off into their own series.
And then just shoot,
And Miss Marvel has retained that popularity in comic books since then.
Yeah, they've done a good job with her.
Yeah, and the little girl who plays her, Iman Vellani, is adorable. I mean, she's amazing. She's living her best little girl nerd life right now. I mean, she's a kid who dressed up as Miss Marvel for Halloween when she was a child. Right. You know what I mean? Because it was a character that, one of the things I think comics have always done so well, and we've talked about this on the show before, is everybody can see themselves in someone, right? There is a character that's you.
And it just resonated with this girl.
And it resonates with you. And she liked the character. Not only does she get to play the character, she's actually, what this classified book is Miss Marvel, the New Mutant. Mm-hmm. So in the television show, I'm going to get into a little spoilery territory for a sec. In the television show, it is revealed that she is a mutant.
Yeah.
Before that,
we were led to believe she was an Inhuman because of this other thing that was going on.
Well, it was 20th Century Fox had the rights to the X-Men, and Marvel didn't want to give them any more fodder to use against them. So they made her an Inhuman at a time when they were trying to turn the Inhumans kind of into the X-Men characters.
Right.
But the original intention for the character was to be a mutant. It was pitched that way, and they were like, no. Inhuman. How about that?
We don't do mutants
So we went down
anymore.
that road. Yeah, so we went down that road with the character. But the Krakoan era kind of provided an interesting way for them to kind of get the character back on the track they always wanted the character to be on.
Right.
So that's what the classified book is. That's why they weren't revealing it. because they killed Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel died in Amazing Spider-Man 35, 36, one of those books. And they did a little one-shot called Fallen Friend. That was kind of how everybody was kind of dealing with this. But Krakoa has resurrected her. She's going to be a mutant now. I'm not really exactly sure how they're going to explain that. Inhumans.
We were confused about this whole Inhuman concept. They too were mutants. It was not just the gassy gas.
They are a mutation. That is for sure
correct.
But it's not a mutation that's naturally occurring. It's a mutation that was created by the Kree.
Yes.
Yeah. So, roundabout way of saying, though, they're finally getting the character back in. Now, the cool thing about that is Iman Vellani, the girl who plays Miss Marvel, is actually co-writing the book. So again, she's kind of living her best nerd life right now.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
How cool would it be, like, if at any point they were like, Chris, fucking cut your hair, we're going to let you play Spider-Man, and then you get to write him for 6 months. And then you want to
write a Spider-Man book.
And I'd be like, fucking done.
There's been a couple of examples of that recently. Riddler Year One was going on. It was a 6-issue miniseries written by Paul Dano. Which was a prelude to, I mean, the book literally ends where the Batman begins, where the movie starts. The movie with
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, yeah. So they let Paul Dano kind of decide how this character got to the point we saw him
where
at.
We met him, yes.
Yeah. It's really an interesting book. I'm trying to think. There was another one. Steel. Michael Dorn is writing a Steel book.
That's
Michael
fucking
Dorn,
wild, man.
Worf, if you're unfamiliar, actually voiced Steel back in the old Justice League cartoon. So he was writing a book called Steelworks, a 6-issue miniseries about John Henry Irons. Yeah. So there's been a few examples recently of celebrities writing comics.
Right.
So yeah, Iman Vellani is co-writing. It's not the sole writing credit.
Right, I'm sure they have to like keep her within the within the spectrum of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm assuming the writer that actually works for Marvel is saying, okay, so this is how Marvel wants this to work, but we have freedom here, and here
what can you
to
do?
Explore what we want to do and how this character is going to be perceived as a mutant now. So yeah, the big mystery revealed. That was Miss Marvel, the New Mutant. Number 1 actually comes out this coming Wednesday.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I like Iman Vellani a lot. I think not only is she just an amazing human being, but she did a great job playing the character. I'm excited to see her get her big screen debut. And this is kind of the first time we're actually seeing one of these things happen, right? So the thought of Disney Plus was always to, hey, we're going to do little TV shows, and then eventually those TV show characters will graduate into a movie role. So this is kind of the first one where we're seeing characters that were first introduced to us in television shows, i.e. Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau.
Well, we always had that hope for Daredevil and the Punisher, and like we get a little cameo, but not Daredevil and Spider-Man together.
I think you're going to see that before too long.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah, with the Daredevil Born Again television show, it's stopped. Its production has stopped right now because of the strike.
Right, but it is destined.
But it will happen. They are bringing back Charlie Cox. They're bringing back John Barenthal, and they're bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio.
You would be doing yourself a massive disservice if you did not, because
I agree.
The original series were so good that they did on Netflix.
I think there was problems in those original series because early on you could see they were trying to say, yeah, this is the MCU, right?
But they couldn't just come out and say it.
But they couldn't have any kind of cross promotion with the characters. And after that first season, those references just stopped.
Right. It
was almost like the television side said, no links to the MCU, none of that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they were just like, dude, fuck it, because what if we get delayed or something like that, and then we're not with the current continuity? But
their continuity never had anything to do with what was happening in the MCU anyway.
I mean, yeah, but they did talk about, like, in season one of Daredevil, that is. I remember them talking about, the events in New York.
They talked about the Battle of New York. They called it they had a name for it. But then there is also a throwaway line from Wesley, Kingpin's kind of assistant guy, where he's talking to the Russians, and he says something to the effect of, maybe I could understand If he had an iron suit or a magic hammer,
right.
that would explain why you keep getting your asses kicked, right? So there was connective tissue in that first season,
right?
But it stopped after that.
They
never
totally
did that
stopped,
again.
Yeah. It totally stopped. I mean, but the series were very, very good.
Oh, the series are great. Yeah, I mean, I think not all of them were great. I think Daredevil was pretty consistent throughout.
Daredevil was good throughout. Punisher was cool.
The problem with Daredevil is it expected you to watch Defenders, and Defenders was just not very good.
Right.
Because what happens to Matt between season 2 and 3 of Daredevil is Defenders, right? So when we come into season 3, if you didn't watch Defenders, you're going to be like, what the hell happened to Matt? Why is he all beat up and almost dead? Because he definitely is, right? Because of the building collapsing on top of him at the end of Defenders. I think Punisher was good. Now, I don't think that the series in and of itself was very good. I think Barenthal really just sells the character very well.
Carried it, you think?
Yeah, I think he carried most of that. That's not to say that there weren't some good actors in the show, but yeah, I mean, the reason to watch it was because of him. When we did the first season of that show, we introduced Micro, who's in the comics kind of his sidekick, if Punisher has a sidekick. I mean, it's a weird way to say it. He's just some guy that Punisher relies on because he's a hacker and he can get him information and money and all the things he might need. But by the end of that first season, Micro's gone. He's out of the story. He's got his family back. He's going to go and he's going to be a family man.
Right.
Going into the second season, I didn't miss him.
No, not at all.
He didn't. I mean, he's a great actor and he did a great job playing the character, but it wasn't impactful enough. And Barenthal's performance is so powerful, you just don't really need to have those recurring like you do in Daredevil. Right. You want to see Karen, and you want to see the night nurse.
Yes.
Yeah. Punisher's not like that, right? Like, no, when you drop that guy, it's not really like you're missing anything.
When you watch The Punisher, you want to see that fucking one crazy guy going out there and doing what crazy people do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't give a shit how he gets there. You're like, no, put yourself in a crazy spot.
Right. So that was a roundabout way of saying, though, like they are, the Marvels in November will be the first time we've seen some of these television people graduate into a movie role. And I'm excited about that.
Super exciting. Yeah.
Another thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because I've mentioned it so many times on the show, it's true. Hickman is bringing back the Ultimate Universe. Mm-hmm. Now, whether he ends up writing any of the books or not, I don't really care. He's writing the one-shot, this Ultimate Universe, this thing here. Ooh, I don't know if you can see that, is a one-shot that is going to kind of serve as an epilogue to Ultimate Invasion, which is almost finished up. There's 2 more issues, I believe, and a prelude to a new line of Ultimate books, which as soon as I get my Marvel previews for September, which I should get this week, I'll be able to tell you for sure. I don't know yet, but we know that this world is not 1610. We know that the maker is trying to turn a random universe that he's calling home into the Ultimate Universe and control it, and through some time travel and some different things. But we know that events here, at least from what we've seen so far, events here are happening very differently. Just one big example that springs to mind that happened in issue 2. We recreate the moment from issue 2 of Ultimates, where Iron Man is flying through the city, testing an armor, and the butler, someone asks him a question, and the butler says, I don't think he considers it a successful test unless he waves at every single lady in every building along the path from here to the Stark Tower. And when he gets back, and everything is presented exactly the same way, except that when we reveal who's inside the armor, it's Howard, not Tony.
We talked about that, I think, last episode. Yeah.
So I don't know that if that's going to be the case going forward. I mean, I don't really think you can, if you're pulling a guy from the ice that's Captain America, it's Steve. If a Norse god is coming down to Earth, it's Thor, right? So those kinds of things seem constant, but the Iron Man thing, I guess you could shift it and you could probably still get the same effect, because what we see in his dad is the same kind of guy. Right. He even has that same line where the butler brings him a martini and some military guy says, a martini? It's 10 a.m. And he goes, not in Moscow. And he drinks his martini. So could that rich sexist playboy guy in a suit of armor be the same, whether it's Tony or Howard? Yeah, it probably would be just the same, right? Howard was that guy too. Tony got it from Howard, right? So,
like father, like son, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know how much of it will be what we know. I don't know how much of it will be the same as what we saw in the old Ultimate Universe. We do know this is a different designated universe entirely. It's not 1610. It's 61602 or so. I don't know. Some weird thing. It's got the 616 in there. But
of course,
a couple of other numbers. Yeah. But either way, I'm here. I'm in. I can't wait.
About it.
So another one that popped up recently. Dan Slott has been doing a Spider-Man book with Mark Bagley, which is great. See those guys back together again, doing a Spider-Man book. And during that book, the first arc was called End of Spider-Verse, which seems stupid. So, don't shoot the golden goose. The Spider-Verse has made them a lot of money and success.
I was going to say that's been one of the best things that's happened to Spider-Man in the last 30 years.
Absolutely. But during that story, Peter Prime, or 616 Peter, got wiped from existence. Now, he was reborn as Dr. Peter Parker, having never gotten bit by the spider, and ultimately he's fine, and it ends, and he's Spider-Man again, whatever.
Right.
But throughout that story, or toward the end of that story, a character popped up called Spider-Boy, and he's a weird little kid.
Extra eye things on his
in a spider costume. Yeah.
And sneakers, because that means you are a child. That's how they keep Miles Morales young.
Yeah, that's how you know. You get to put the sneakers on there. And when he popped up, they were like, "Who the hell are you?" And he was like, "Are you kidding? I've been your sidekick for 10 years. You don't remember me?" So it's a retcon in a way to say something has gone wrong with Peter where he forgot that he had a sidekick. This is a sidekick, though, that we've just never known, right? I mean, the way they describe him after the events of the end of Spider-Verse, Spider-Boy's secret history as Spider-Man's sidekick was nearly forgotten forever, but now the mysteries will be revealed. So Spider-Man had a secret sidekick that we just never knew about.
I've not let you guys know this for the last 60 years. It didn't seem like pertinent information.
Well, and in and of itself, it's a retcon, right?
It is.
And it's, but it seems interesting, right? I mean, I like spider stuff.
I mean, shit, dude, I'll totally read it.
Yeah, I
mean, you know me. I'll read the spider books.
Yeah, I know. In fact, that's one of the things we need to talk about is the return of, I think, what is probably one of your favorite spider books.
Superior Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is coming back.
Ooh.
It's weird to see, but yeah, the Superior Spider-Man.
Seeing the fucking claws.
With his claws. And
the, eyeglasses.
Yeah, and it's because he was Otto, right?
Yeah.
And even though he was in someone else's body, apparently he still couldn't see good.
It's that, or he's like, I gotta super zoom into this shit.
I guess. I don't really know. But Dan Slott is going to write it again. Giuseppe Camuncoli, the artists that are listed on this first issue, because this is a one-shot, are Giuseppe Camuncoli, Humberto Ramos, Mark Bagley, and Ryan Stegman. I believe...
And fucking Stegman, one of my favorites for Spider-Man.
Ryan Stegman is the one who did the original Superior Spider-Man.
He did. So he was the artist when they started it. I think they got away from him.
Yeah, that
and then he was
last.
also the artist on Scarlet Spider, which is my favorite series.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, and
he's love Ryan Stegman.
He's also he did Venom when Donny Cates was writing Venom.
He did.
Yeah, he was doing. At the very least, he always did the covers, whether or not he was always the one doing the interiors.
Right.
I think they just brought him back for special things after the initial run.
Well, his covers are the shit. I think he does my favorite covers.
This cover is Stegman. Yeah.
And that's for sure him.
This cover is Stegman.
That's for sure him.
This one on the page here.
You're a fucking nerd when you can tell who's drawing your covers.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo though. Like that.
I with Stegman, he sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I'm like, that's Stegman.
So there has been a She-Hulk book going on that's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Why they are relaunching it, who knows? But they are relaunching it as a sensational She-Hulk. And again, I don't really know why. It's the same creative team.
Because number one, sell more books, bitches.
Rainbow
That's
Rowell.
why.
Rainbow Rowell is still the one writing it, so I'm not really sure why they're having her relaunch a book she's already been writing.
I told you why.
Well, okay, number one, sell. Truth be told, this is gonna be Sensational She-Hulk, which was the title of her book for a long time. The other one was just She-Hulk, and they used that book to reintroduce Jack of Hearts. That's a deep cut. If you're not familiar, Jack of Hearts is an old Avengers character. I think he was on the West Coast team,
Avengers,
if I remember right. But when they did Avengers, he died, and when they did Avengers Disassembled, the whole thing kicked off with him like coming back as a zombie and then exploding and blowing up Avengers Mansion and killing like Hawkeye and a bunch of other people.
They had it coming.
Division died that day too. Yeah. Ultron was reborn. It was a whole crazy thing that Brian Michael Bendis did. But the She-Hulk book that has been exploring Jack of Hearts kind of being reborn and coming back into this world, She-Hulk, Jennifer was always the one that was close to him. I think they dated for a while. And so when he came back and he didn't know what was going on and he didn't know what had happened, he went to her. And so that book's kind of been exploring their relationship, kind of her trying to help him reacclimate to being an alive person in the world. So while the current She-Hulk book has not ended yet, I would assume maybe that's why the relaunch is happening, because we're going to wrap up the Jack of Hearts story and then we're going to take it into a new direction. But again, same creative team. So I imagine the quality of the book will still be way up there because it's a great book.
Then you guys can get your number one.
Yeah.
That's what this is really
about. It's a jumping on point. That's what they call it. A couple of things to mention real quick. The White Widow is Yelena Belova is back. I imagine that's because she's going to be the Widow going forward in the movies.
Of course. I have to say, man, like when the MCU started and it was this entity in and of itself, and they were like, well, we're going to be borrowing from this, that, and the other. Yeah. It's its own thing, though, so you have to treat it like it's its own thing.
It took its early inspiration from the Ultimate Universe.
I know. I'm not denying that whatsoever. But then to take it and to be like, all right, man, look, get them all here. I guess it makes sense, though, because you're going to sell more comics if that character is relevant.
Yeah, it's all about synergy. After Guardians of the Galaxy became a hit, Star-Lord in the comics started dressing like Chris Pratt, so... It's synergy. I think it's so if I saw that movie and it made me go, I kind of want to go into a comic store, I would immediately recognize the thing I was there for. Oh, there he is. There's Star-Lord, right?
Chris Pratt in comic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? And Yelena is going to be the Widow going forward. Not only that, she's going to be in the Thunderbolts movie that's going to be coming out next year.
Yeah, she is, and so is David Harbour.
Yeah, as Red Guardian. So yeah, that should be fun. Carnage is being relaunched. Again,
we do this all the time with Carnage.
Yeah, I don't really know why. The current series that Ram V's been doing has been great. I'm not really sure. Unless it's to set up some kind of future event or something. I'd imagine something that. This was actually launched or previewed in the last previews. This is number 2 here, but because Marvel has the 20th Century Fox stuff now, which is just 20th Century Studios now. They took the Fox out and there's studios. They've been doing Alien books. They've been doing Predator books. They've been doing Planet of the Apes books. They've actually all been pretty decent so far. I mean, some have been better than others.
It's really just about using the properties, though. Yeah. Yeah,
the first arc of Predator was better than the current arc that's going on. But that's not to say the current arc's bad. It just... The way they introduced it was like, oh, this is great. Where did this come from? Why hasn't this been a Predator movie? This is a great movie. But so it was only a matter of time. It really was only a matter of time before 20th Century Studios properties would cross over with Marvel properties. And so last month we saw a preview for Predator versus Wolverine.
Yeah.
Which
that's a
everybody's
cool
thing they always
crossover.
Wanted to see, right?
Yeah, that's a cool crossover, though. I'll give them that.
And Ben Percy's writing it, which is interesting because he's the one currently writing Wolverine. He's been writing X-Force. Both great books that have been really doing very good.
Is it just going to be, is it like a 2-part?
It's a 4-issue miniseries.
Okay, so it's a 4-issue.
But what I think is an interesting premise.
I'll bet.
What I think is an interesting premise, though, is the book, each issue of the book is going to be a different era because Wolverine is a guy who's lived for hundreds of years.
Right.
So it's about, the first issue is him during his Weapon X stuff when he's all wild. He's got the headset on, you know, and then he encounters a Predator there. This book is when he was part of Task Force. What the hell was that? Weapon X. When he was part of Weapon X and he was like a contracted government killer and stuff like that. And then I imagine eventually, whether it's issue 3 or 4, we'll get to
as an
X-Men Wolverine dealing with Predator. It's an interesting premise to kind of jump eras.
It is cool because what if they were, so this is like a proving grounds for them. So what if, you know, the thing that they have to prove themselves against and the thing all along was always Logan.
Right.
That'd be
Wolverine just keeps